So I had the brilliant idea that since I can't have fun on Twitter, I can't have fun just mindlessly scrolling. I thought I'd do it in front of a camera. I'll shout out larger creators, and this will also be a way for me to plug my Twitter, I guess. Shamelessly plug it. I'll put it in the comments or probably the description. Either way, I don't really know. Not a big YouTuber. And this is gonna be how I'm gonna get my hot takes because I don't have an audience large enough to, ask for hot takes. And more importantly than that, I don't got a lot of people watching these videos. So yeah, let's see. I'm just gonna scroll through my feed as I normally would and see something. If I see something crazy, yeah, we'll talk about it. So Click Productions. If you don't know who that is, this is probably not the right video for you, dog. I'm not gonna lie. Reacting to Shams breaking the news that the Lakers original owners, or not original owners, but the Lakers owners of the last prominence. Like just think about it. The Buss family is selling. They sold it for $10 billion. They told the Lakers for $10 billion. This is not only a massive inflation of the and I do mean that in like a positive way for once. Inflation of the amount of money they put into this. Like they have made the massive leap and they've grown the Lakers branding just to be this big in general. Now it does take a lot of generational prospects and players for this to work, obviously, but like they've drafted well, they've been pretty good owners. The only thing bad that I've heard about Jeanie Buss as an owner is that, like, sometimes she can make some boneheaded decisions, but like I don't know if I need to tell this to everybody. Every owner makes boneheaded decisions. They're billionaires. They don't know as much about the sport as you think. Now running it is a completely different thing and I have no idea about it. That being said, like that happens. You're gonna have boneheaded decisions, you're gonna have firings that make no sense, you're gonna have moves where you're like, I don't know. And yes, this team has not been that good without a generationally good talent on their team, like a Kobe, a LeBron, a Shaq, blah, blah, blah. You get it, Magic Johnson, all those players that they had through the tenure of the Buss family. But they probably don't come to LA without the Buss family, so you never know. They've shaped the history of the league more than I think we can give credit to a lot of people, a lot of players even, to be honest. So yeah, not a hot take, but it is crazy to see that they're selling the team first and foremost. Let's see. Dom 2K says this series is a great example of a general stuff being misleading because this was amazing, and it's the Miami versus the Thunder season. Context for that season, it was a lockout shortened season. So again, if you look, literally like everything about this series is going to be, if you look at just the numbers, right, you're not going to get the full picture. But if you look at just the people who are on the roster, you're not going to get the full picture. If you watch these games though, and and by the way, a gentleman's sweep means you win in 5 games. If you watch these games though, you would know this series was not only closer than a lot of people give it credit for, even though the Heat did eventually win in 5 games, but more importantly than that, this was much more entertaining than anyone would ever tell you. All right, anyway. If this was 1998, we'd have a whole Wu-Tang versus a Wemby versus Wu-Tang Nike campaign and a deluxe album already. I wasn't around in 98, obviously. I'm not that old. But, I think what this is getting at is the whole NBA marketing has been a lot worse for wear than really it should be. A lot of reasons why you're looking at the NBA and you think it's fallen off, even though the talent has gotten better throughout the league, is a lot to do with marketing. Just the NBA sucks, frankly, at marketing their players, and the peak of marketing for my entertainment purposes was probably the late 2010. Well, early 2010s, but right before 2017, right? 2017 and before. Because everything after that is where you start to see the down spiral, and that has a lot more to do with them not letting go of a LeBron James, them not letting go of a Steph Curry, them not letting go of a KD. And just now, recently, I think it's starting to have a turn upwards with them marketing a Jason Tatum, which I don't know how you couldn't do that before. Them marketing a Shea, the Donovan Mitchell, all those guys. Great, that's good. You could still be doing a better job. This is not really a hot take though. I feel like that's a good idea. All right. I don't really have to say anything about that. Like that's not like. Nope. Let's see. Keep going. Oh. Okay. Playoff Mal has a take. Who would win? Doesn't have a take, but he's asking a question. Who would win this series? 2025 Lakers or 2025 Thunder or 2020 Lakers? This is a great question in my opinion. I think this is probably the last transcendent version of LeBron we've ever seen. Where so it's like, oh my God, this is the last time LeBron was ever in that conversation of best in the world talks. Where it's like, yeah, I can realistically listen to you say this guy's the number one guy in the league, and I would be like, yeah, absolutely. This version of AD is absolutely insane. I think that is going to be something that is going to be very annoying to deal with. Now, the Lakers are not as well spaced as the Thunder, which is crazy because the Thunder aren't a dominant three-point shooting team. Honestly, it just comes down to what you think is more important. Ironically enough, though, these are both Alex Caruso teams. So if you want to nullify the other Alex Caruso, you could use the other Alex Caruso, which would be pretty funny. But yeah, I think the Lakers are just a more talented roster, but that doesn't obviously translate to winning games. And honestly, if we look at the pace that both of these teams were on, right? And I do have to do that because the Lakers played in a shortened season, right? If you look at the pace that both of these teams were on, you can realistically say and easily say that the Thunder are a better team just based on their wins. Now, the Lakers won the championship, right? But honestly, if we're thinking about it, there was never a series for these guys where I was with the Lakers at least, where I was worried about them losing. That goes from the Blazers series to the Rockets series to the Nuggets series. I didn't really know Jokic's game as much as well as I do. I think this is the first time everyone was forced to be well acquainted with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And Jamal Murray was killing in the bubble. Everyone knows this, who was around back then. But again, I'm going to have that. Eventually, you're going to have people who don't know about this stuff. Because, again, I don't know what went on in 1998. Except, like, hearing it from other people and doing independent research. I don't know anything about that shit. It's not important. This could go either way, to be quite honest. I think the supporting cast around OKC is much better, but obviously the top end talent of the Lakers, especially given that year and where they were at that point in time, yeah, it is certainly different. But basketball isn't always just about talent, so I think the Thunder. I would just, and I don't know if this is recency bias or not, I would lean towards the Thunder. And especially knowing how good Jalen Williams has been playing as of late. Yes, I know recency bias, but it is hard to really contest and go against that. Yeah. That's what I have to say for that. Disgusting. Who's stopping this team? Brook Lopez in a Lakers jersey. I'm just gonna... It's 2025. Next. Nope. Not dealing with this. There's been a lot of Celtics fans, and they're talking about trading for Jaylen Brown. The Spurs are completely uninterested in doing this. It is absolutely disgusting. I'm tired of this. Nobody wants Jaylen Brown for the amount of money that he's making. You shot yourself in the foot by signing that contract. Now everybody, well, when you won the contract, when you won the championship, it was justified. That's it, though. That's all I have to say about that. That's disgusting. We're not going to talk about that. Mavericks fan, this is the deepest team in the league. If they can stay healthy, yeah, this is a very deep team. Clay should probably not be starting at this point in his career. I would have Max Christie starting for defensive reasons. Honestly, his offense is not far away from Klay Thompson's anyway. I don't know who needs to hear this because it's 2025 and this is post-Achilles, post-ACL. Well, not post Achilles. I think both Achilles in both legs. Regardless. Yeah, no. Just we're way too late in this nigga's career for niggas to be coping for Klay Thompson. Yeah, no. We're not doing that. I like this team. I like the Mavericks team. I hope they get healthy next season. I still don't like Nico. I think that nigga should be fired. That was actually malpractice. Unless you want to say that either it's malpractice or the NBA is rigged. You pick your take, because it can't be both. Oh, this has been disgusting. Okay, so this is a Cavaliers fan named Hoodie Garland. It's spelled hoodie with an I instead of a Y. So this guy says this does not put an asterisk on OKC's Thunder championship run. By the way, I've been seeing a lot of people saying that there should be an asterisk on this run in particular, and with all due respect, you're idiots. You're dumb. We're not doing this. The reason we're not doing this is because all of the teams that they played this year, right? Please keep this in mind. All of the teams that they played this year are some teams that before the series even started, people with common sense, people who watched the games would have told you, oh yeah, the Thunder are going to win this. And with all due respect, especially for you niggas who are coping for Ja Morant, in the big year of 2025, when this man has played since who was drafted in 2018 and has yet to play a full season of basketball. Matter of fact, I don't think he's played 70 games. His play style is not conducive to staying healthy. So him being injured did not surprise me. Jaren Jackson Jr. barely being healthy through that series did not surprise me. These are injury-prone players. And the fact that they made it this far while having to adjust the system throughout the year was a surefire certified reason why they were not going to beat OKC. Everyone knew that going into that series. And even if you want to say, oh, but Ja Morant said he figured them out. Nigga, Ja Morant can't even stay on the court, whether it's gun violence, well, not gun violence, but him brandishing a firearm, which he's not allowed to do per his contract, and he keeps getting into trouble with that. I don't know why you want to do that. You are a multi-millionaire. You have no need to own this stuff. You have no need to be brandishing it, at least. You can own it. That's whatever. But don't flash it. You know that. You've already been in through this trouble. That's different. His health is not... His health... we weren't surprised when he was injured. He shouldn't be surprised. That's what he is. That's who he is. That's how that's gonna happen in over an 82-game season. He's not gonna be healthy for the playoffs a lot of the time. And also, that was a play-in team. So let's stop it right there. They were the number 1 seed for a reason, and they played a play-in team and they swept them. Oh my god, crazy! A 60+ win team swept a play-in team. Anyway, next we're gonna talk about their next round. The next round they played against a different Nuggets team, and that took 7 games. But I'm gonna be honest. It took 7 games solely off of the back of both of these teams being really well matched, which nobody expected going into the series. I'm gonna be honest, but the Thunder did pull that win out. And yes, you can be like, but Aaron Gordon, please. For the people who are saying this, you were not coping for Aaron Gordon this hard going into the series. I was like, yeah, he's the second most player on the team. But we also all realized that this team that had just fired their head coach going into the series, right? They just fired their head coach going into the series. We were in the series, and this guy had coached more playoff games than he had regular season games. Obviously, they weren't going to win that series. Let's be honest. No one thought they were going to win that series until it was Game 7, right? And more importantly than any of those other factors, let's be completely fair. Not only did they fire their GM, not only did they fire their head coach, Jokic drawing up plays on the sideline. They had the perfect defense that could guard a Jokic, right? Perfect defense that could guard a Jokic. I mean, like, if I'm going through the history of the league, right, there is probably not a better team that matched up with this version of the Nuggets better than that team, right? And then more importantly than any of the factors that I just said, a lot of the reason why this series was so close is because the Thunder players were underperforming and the Nuggets were performing above where we thought they would be. So I'm not putting an asterisk on this championship, especially when they had a hard-fought round there. And then as far as the Minnesota series, that was over the second Game 3 occurred, right? When Game 3 happened and the Timberwolves won that game, right, in a crazy fashion, that moment right there, the Thunder locked in, and the next 2 games, belt to ass. Game 2 was belt to ass. I don't know what we're talking about. There wasn't an injury in that series that we were talking about. And then they're like, well, they didn't have to play Steph. They didn't have to. Injuries happen every single year, and this year was way less egregious for their run in particular than any other team. Also, you're just like, what are we talking about? This team has the MVP, multiple all defensive players, and we're talking about this ring has an asterisk because Halliburton in Game 6 of the NBA Finals is injured. Oh my God, they might have to play without their best player. First of all, let's be honest, we didn't even have this team making the finals. We didn't. And if the healthy unless Jason Tatum, who I'm gonna be honest, was having hard times, this team was having a hard time beating the Knicks before he was healthy, before he got injured. That team, let's be honest, that team never stood a chance against this year's Thunder. What are we talking about? It's a bad take and it's disgusting to put an asterisk on it. By the way, Hoodie Garland did not say put an asterisk on it. He said the exact opposite. But speaking of which, I saw a take earlier talking about, oh, we got to keep the same energy that we kept for the Celtics last year. Y'all were playing I'm going to be honest. The players that were injured on those teams made them sub-30 win teams. I'm not joking with you. If you think about it for more than 2 seconds, if you remove Jimmy Butler from that roster, and we got to see it this year, Jimmy Butler not playing on this roster, and that was a slightly better roster, made them the 10th seed, and they had to play through the play-in to win. And that was with the fact that Jimmy Butler played earlier in the season. They're a play-in team without him. Okay, we just saw that. If we look at what happened last year when they played the Cleveland Cavaliers, not only was Garland playing terribly, but Donovan Mitchell got hurt in Game 3, and they also lost Jared Allen. That team was not nearly as good without either of those players. We know this, and if you look at their plus minus, or there's a stat literally calculated to the amount of wins that player adds to a team. If you calculate their team for the minus their win shares, with the amount of games they won, yeah, you look at the roster and you think about it for more than 2 seconds, you realize not only are those players much more significant than any injury that the Thunder played against, right? Not only were they more unpredictable than any of those things, right? They were literally playing sub-30 win teams, bro. They were playing injured teams where their best player was injured the entire way through, and then they made it to the finals where Luka was also injured. Like, not just injured, playing through an injury, and he was doing everything by himself. So if you literally take him out of the game, it's pretty much over, right? Don't know what to tell you. Celtics fans coping for Jaylen Brown, disgusting. I've been seeing a lot of talks about Toronto trading for Kevin Durant. That is not happening, let's be completely honest. Even if KD, and by the way, the Celtics have been shamelessly trying to get rid of Jaylen Brown. Actually disgusting the way they're doing it. By the way, nobody wants him for that much money. And the amount of skills problems that we've had with him. Like, no. Absolutely not. No. Disgusting. But more importantly than any of the things that I've just said, I don't know what to tell you guys. It ain't happening. They're not going to be able to get rid of that, bro. What else are we looking for? Derek White and Trae Young takes. Don't know why these are happening. Let's be honest. They're pretty much saying who's better. This is coming from a Celtics fan, so don't take them too seriously. They're a Celtics fan. They're delusional. They don't know what they're talking about. It's literally just would you rather have the guy that can make a franchise very mid at the best, right? From the best, he can make this team very mid, and you're not probably going to win a championship with this guy, or this guy can be a role player on your team and win you a championship if you have the right pieces up front with him. I'm going to be honest, you're never seeing a championship with Trae Young as the number one guy, even if they made the best roster around him possible. Because at a certain point, you'd be looking over and you think, even if you maximize Trae Young, you're still not getting enough value from him as a player that you would from like an actual top in talent of the league. And I mean like top 15. And I think Trae Young slots around 15. Well, that's insane. That guy's way too young to be on Twitter. It's a clip of who won the finals the year you were born. Unless this guy's a 2006 baby and that Miami Heat won that championship. This is insane. I hope he's not talking about the 20. I really do hope he's not talking about the 2014 Miami Heat winning their championship, because if that's the case, Jesus Christ, bro, get off Twitter, please. Do something else. Russ fans hating on OKC and S team and SCA will never not be funny to me. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Anyway. Disgusting. Not gonna talk about that. I'm just gonna ignore that. Oh, Paolo versus Jalen Williams. I saw this earlier. So, besides the fact that what you're basically asking me is, do I think the number 2 guy in a championship, who's gonna win a championship this year? And yes, Jalen Williams has been up and down this year. Is better than Pablo Banchero. I'm gonna be honest. This is a coin flip for me. I think it's 50-50. I think if Paulo had better spacing on his team, we could see him have more of those really, really dominant games. And yes, I saw Paulo get injured this season and come back from that injury. And this nigga averaged 30 in the playoffs. Like practically 30 against the Boston Celtics, who unironically probably have the best matchup for him with, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on the floor. And then just that swarming defense that is there, and then the fact that they have absolutely no spacing, he still averaged 30 against that team. That should tell you where I'm leaning towards, though. So yeah, I think if Paulo had the same opportunity as a Jalen Williams, that Paulo would be doing the same things as Jalen Williams, if not better, because I think he is a slightly better ball handler. Now, if we're talking about their defensive bags, I'm gonna be honest. I've seen Jalen Williams guard centers. Not these centers, but honestly, if he gets switched onto Jokic, I'm not panicking. That's honestly not the worst matchup in the world. If he gets switched onto Jokic, you're like, okay, well, not the greatest, but this is a serviceable matchup. Do I want him doing it for every single play? Absolutely not. We have Chet. They had Chet in Jesus Christ, man. He's been playing. He hasn't been playing as well. It's Chet and Hartenstein. They're Chet and Hartenstein to guard centers, but like Jalen Williams getting switched on him, not that big of a deal. Caruso getting switched on him, not that big of a deal. Jalen Williams has done a lot for me this season. It's a 50-50. It's literally just, who do you think is better, the star player that everyone knows is a star, or the guy who just came onto the scene, or sorry about that. I framed it wrong. Jalen Williams, who is like the number 2 on the championship team, or the least talked about number 1 overall pick that actually isn't a bust. That's that. Next. I'm gonna cut this off at around the 25 minutes. Okay, this is gonna be our first WNBA take. This is disgusting, and I don't know why people are still talking about this. So basically, Caitlin got scratched in her eye. She pushes off, right, and shows a little bit of aggression, and immediately is clobbered by another WNBA player. So basically, what people have been saying about this has been the same thing they've been saying about Caitlin Clark in the entire league. If Caitlin's not playing, the league is dead. And if you strictly just only look at the numbers, yes, the WNBA takes a massive hit when their best player is not playing. I'm gonna be completely honest though. You come here real quick. So does the NBA, so does the NFL, and so does a lot of other teams. Casual fans know this name. That's who they come to watch. That's who they like to watch. If she's not playing, they're not going to play. Now, I don't think that hit is as massive in those other leagues as it is, because they're much more developed leagues that have had more time in the spotlight. And honestly, if you look at the NBA, that's much more so the case than any of the other leagues, because the NBA is declining, to be quite honest. And it has a lot to do with pirating. It has a lot to do with the games just being straight up inaccessible for no reason. But it also has the fact to do with they just poorly market their stars. So with Caitlin, in the case of Caitlin getting fouled here in this clip, it is a pretty egregious clip. And I do think the play, what happened there should have gotten... By the way, if I'm not mistaken, Caitlin got a flagrant for the push, which I think the push wasn't that bad. She just got into her eyes. She took some contact in the chest. They bumped, and she's pushing off like, get off me, right? Plus, I hate to break it to you guys. Just come here, NBA fans. It's a much more physical league than the NBA. It's just a fact. It's a much more physical league than the NBA. They're probably like if we're comparing like just physicality, they're playing in like the 90s or the early 2000s as far as physicality, especially because there's a lot of there's not as much space in a WNBA court. Please, not that the court is smaller, but the spacing is worse. They don't have the emphasis on shooting as much. The league is just behind the talent. They're just not as talented as the NBA currently. They're improving. And the expansion teams is certainly a great way for that to happen. I love the Valkyries as an addition. Yeah, this is unrelated, but 25 minutes in the video, I want to show WNBA some love. Great. Yeah. But I'm going to be completely honest. Every team needs the goon, right? The guy where you're not going to foul this player because this player is willing to get the run out of the games. Unfortunately, I don't think it's not going to be as productive as it would be in the NBA because that guy would still be making millions of dollars. And you could really convince him, I get paid millions of dollars, and all I have to do is make sure that the person on the opposing team thinks twice about touching my star player. You got that in hockey. That's a thing. That's a very common thing in hockey. But all of those guys on the ice can fight. Even if it's only hockey fighting. Like, I would take 95% of hockey players in a street fight over literally any other sport. That goes for NFL and by the way, the only sports that I'm not talking about are combat sports, obviously, duh. But yeah, there's some hockey players that I probably could beat some boxers. They just way more weight class restrictions and all that, ignoring those. But yeah, there does need to be a goon on the what's the name? My thing is, a lot of people have been talking about they don't want Caitlyn to be hurt. No, I don't want Caitlyn to be hurt either, right? But this does bring interest into the WNBA. Just this physicality does. Like, people are looking over like, oh my god, they're not going for this? Yeah, I love that. NBA, let's be honest. Niggas in the NBA, we don't want to fight. They don't want to fight each other that much. Like, you get a hard foul and you get up and you get a hard foul, you get up and react. But like, these niggas don't be about this. I don't want to fight. Let's be real. They're professional athletes, bro. Millions of dollars play basketball. They're not getting up and like, oh yeah, I'm really gonna take this nigga head off. It's nonsense. Nothing to be worried about. As far as one more take. That's it. Because I said I was only gonna go for 25. We're not. That's the Athletic. That's not really a take. This is trolling. The greatest clutch run in NBA in history is not supposed to history, but he's not supposed to celebrate the series. This is corny. This is straight up hate. So, a Pacers fan has to defend his star player in Tyler Halliburton, not from the terrible performance he's had, but the trolling. When all that trolling catches up to you, I'm sorry if I had one of those clutch ass runs that Tyrese Halliburton is having, nigga, I would be celebrating to the cows come home. Honestly, this run has done more. This run has done more for his legacy than possibly winning a championship could do for most players' legacies. I am being that serious with you. This run has been generational, and if you want him to not celebrate hitting what 3-game winners and each and one in almost every series, basically. And then you want him to not celebrate in a game time. This is the stuff you dreamed about in your backyard. This is the stuff you used to dream about hitting in games. If you ever had literal hoop dreams, any of them, this is what you used to dream about, bruh. This is an entire genre of media based on hoop dreams, dog. There's an entire genre of life that most kids go through of wanting to be a professional athlete. This is what it looks like. And you wanted him to not celebrate? Nigga, we're acting weird. By the way, this Hoodie Brunson was not a Y, but an I-E. Bro, just enjoy the couch that you're sitting on. And know that your team will never win a championship in the modern era. You won in the 70s, the most Mickey era of all time. Shut up. Yeah, that's going to do it for me. Because I said this would be done in 25 minutes. It is around 30. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see me go through my feed more and really embarrass myself reading stuff from X.com and not XXX.com, yeah. Hope people like this video.